Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pre-Algebra Math. And again, our focus is going to be working with volume. I hope you guys are all doing well, taking care of yourselves, staying healthy. I miss you guys, I really, really do. I hope that we do get together one more time before the end of the school year, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. You know what would be great is if I could somehow show off my puppy to you as well. So if I haven't already said this, I think what I'm going to do is try and get some Zoom meetings going. So look for that posted in your Google Classroom. But so maybe if we can't meet her live, you can do a video conferencing. So anyway, let's go ahead and get going with our notes. What we're doing is more of composite figures, but one of the shapes is half a shape. So again, on these notes, I do have filled in the formulas, and all you have to do is copy these notes if you're able to print it out, or just do it on a separate sheet of notebook paper. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our first example. We have a cylinder, half a cylinder, and a rectangular prism. So for this, I'm going to just fix something on my end roll here real quick. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and start with the rectangular prism. That's a little bit easier for me. So we're going to go ahead and write in rectangular prism. The formula for the rectangular prism, if you could see that at the top of your page, is length times width times height. And the next thing I'm going to do is make my substitutions. So my length, I'm going to call it 7. My width is going to be 13, and my height is 8. And so in my calculator, I'm going to pull that over, make my substitution. So 7 times 13 times 8. It looks like I will have 728. So I'll write that down, 728 millimeters cubed. Next is going to be that half cylinder. So this is just a little bit more involved, but we can do it no problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy down the formula for a cylinder, the volume of a cylinder. So this is going to be pi r squared h. The next thing I'm going to do is look for the radius and height, because I don't see it labeled. So let's see. Here is the circle or half circle of my cylinder, and if I have 7 down here, I have 7 millimeters right here. So that means that the diameter is 7. Half of that is 3.5. So my radius is 3.5. Okay, so again, the radius is from the center to the edge. The height is from one circle to the other, right here. Okay, so the cylinder looks like it is kind of tipped off on its side, and so this would be the height. And if I have 13 down here, then that means that 13 is going to be parallel and run right along that edge. So the height of that cylinder is 13. Okay, so again, we just need to put the pieces together, again, even though the cylinder looks like it's tipped onto the side. The circles contain the radius, and the height is from one circle to the other. Let's go ahead and make our substitutions. So I have pi times 3.5 squared times the height, which is 13. My next step is going to be doing exponents. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3.5 squared, and that is 12 and 25 hundredths times 13. And I'm kind of writing sloppy, that's why I have the parentheses. So if you can be neat, you don't necessarily have to do that. My next step, though, is going to be to multiply my two coefficients together. So this 12 and 25 hundredths times 13. And that gives me 159 and 25 hundredths pi. Okay, so remember, this is my exact answer. Nothing has been rounded yet. I just need to move my paper and bring my calculator back. And the next step is I'm going to take that and multiply it by pi, and then I get my rounded answer. So my volume here is 530 hundredths, okay? But remember that it's a half cylinder, so I found the volume of a full cylinder. Again, because this shape is half a cylinder, I'm going to take this, divide by 2. Or remember, I can always multiply by 1/2. But when I divide by 2, so in my calculator, I'm going to leave what I have. I'm going to hit divided by 2, and there we go. So 250 and 15 hundredths millimeters cubed. Okay? So I found my 2 volumes. Remember that this is a composite. We are going to have to add this up. So I'm going to go ahead and label composite. I'm going to recopy 728. Right underneath it, I'm going to add together 250 and 15 hundredths. And in my calculator, I'm going to clear out what I have, and I'm going to recopy exactly what I wrote down. So 728 plus 250 and 15 hundredths, and I end up with 978 and 15 hundredths. This has been approximated, this has been rounded from right here, so I'm going to keep that symbol, and this is millimeters cubed. This is what we get for the final answer. Okay? All right, let's jump over to our second example. My second example, we have a hemisphere, okay, half a sphere, and a cone. So we did have one similar to this on the last notes, so hopefully this will be more of a review. If not, that's okay. But we're going to find the volume of the cone and then half the sphere. Starting with the cone, to recopy the formula, we have 1/3 pi r squared h. The next thing I'm going to do is find the values of the radius and the height. So for my cone, I'm going to look for the radius. Remember, it's the center to the outer edge. The radius is not given to me, but the diameter is given to me. The diameter is 20. Okay? Remember that the radius is half that. Okay? So I can always just take that, divide by 2. My radius is 10. My height is 19. The next thing I'm going to do is make my substitution. So I have 1/3 times pi times my radius, which is 10, times my height, which is 19. Then I'm going to go ahead, order of operations, I'm going to do exponents first. So I recopy everything else. 10 squared, so if I do this in my calculator, 10 squared, I get 100 times 19. And then I'm going to multiply my coefficients together. So this is 100 times 19 times 1, ABC3. Multiply that all together, I get 633 and 1/3 pi. Remember, this is my exact answer. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and calculate pi, and I'll round my answer to the hundredth. So I'm going to leave what I have here and just do times that pi symbol. I hit enter and recopy what I have here. So looks like it's going to be 1,989 and 67 hundredths centimeters cubed, okay, as the rounded answer of that cone. The next thing I'm going to do, because again it's a composite figure, we're going to add them together. I'm going to find the volume of the hemisphere. Remember, this is half a sphere, but to do this, I find the volume of the sphere and then divide by 2 at the end. The formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. So let's go ahead and find the radius. The radius of this circle, this sphere, sorry, well, that's not given to us. The diameter is. The diameter is 20. I just divide by 2, and then I get 10. So my radius is 10. When I make my substitutions, so I recopy everything else, 4/3 pi. Instead of writing r, radius is 10 and it's cubed. My next step is I'm going to go ahead and cube this. So a reminder on how to do that in the calculator. Right here, the button right underneath pi to the power of 3, and I get 1,000. So 4/3 pi times 1,000. I'm going to take this and multiply by 4, ABC 3. All right, and I did not get a fraction answer. So a quick reminder on how to convert a decimal to a fraction. You see the FD arrows right here. I'm going to hit second and then that button. So it's going to be decimal to fraction. Oh, it doesn't want to do it for me. But anyway, the answer is going to be 1,333 1/3 pi. Okay, so I'm going to write it as a fraction because, again, this is my exact answer. Nothing has been rounded. But I could leave this in the calculator. That is fine. It's just remembering that 0.333 repeating is the same thing as 1/3. But my next step is to get my rounded answer. So I'm going to leave what I have times pi, and then I get 4,188 79/100. Okay? This, remember, is the volume of a full sphere. We need half a sphere. So don't forget, take this, multiply it by 1/2 or divide by 2. So in my calculator, I'm just going to leave what I have. I'm going to hit divided by 2. And then I get 2,094 40/100. Okay? And it's centimeters cubed. So I have the volume of my cone, volume of my hemisphere. My composite, this is adding everything together. So I'm going to recopy what I have. So 1,989 67/100 plus 2,904 40/100. So remember, when you add this up, you just line it up by place value and by decimal point. In my calculator, what I'm going to do is clear out what I had, and I'm going to type in exactly what I see. So 1,989 67/100 plus 2,094 40/100. And it looks like I have 4,084 7/100 and centimeters cubed. All right. Sorry, these notes were a little bit longer. I apologize. Required a little bit more work, but I am done. So this is it for these notes. Thank you, and I will see you guys next time in the next notes for the next episode of Math Stuff. Bye.